Hello and welcome back to Shakesyear. We are working on The Two Gentlemen of Verona, and we get to hear from Valentine today in Act 2, Scene 4. Now, Valentine, if you remember, wanted to go, see the world and explore and that sort of a thing, and he has ended up in Milan, where he seems to have fallen for a woman named Sylvia, who has kind of fallen for him too. She may or may not be the most beautiful woman in the world, but she had him write a love letter to her friend, who was actually him, and then when she tried to get him to give it to himself, he was like, no, but it's for you, and it was a whole thing. So anyway, they are in Milan, and Proteus, meanwhile, was back in Verona, he being the other gentleman of Verona, because he was in love with Julia. He had a very sad, poetic parting with her. Well, he shared some poetry and then she just left and he was like, that was a little weird. And then his servant yesterday, Launce, was all sorts of upset that the dog didn't cry at his leaving, but they are on their way to Milan. So we start out Act 2, Scene 4 with Sylvia and Valentine and Speed is like, oh, there's somebody coming, and that somebody coming turns out to be Thurio, who is another gentleman of Milan who wants to woo Sylvia. And he actually, I believe, I'm not sure if it's been determined at this point or not, there's stuff about the character description of Thurio in certain texts that say that he is the preferred suitor of Sylvia as opposed to anybody else. But I mean, Sylvia and Valentine, they're like hanging out and all that sort of thing. Anyway, Thurio, at the minimum, feels a little threatened by Valentine. So when he comes in, the two of them getting into a pissing contest battle of wits and turning things around and I was going to do this singly. No, but I'm wearing a doublet, so I'll do that doubly. And all of that sort of back and forth, both of them trying to show off for Sylvia to show that they are the smarter one. And as we know, Valentine is not the sharpest tool in the shed. But anyway, they go back and forth like that for a little bit until Sylvia's like, hang on, shush, my dad's coming in. So the Duke of Milan comes in and he's like, hey, who wants to hear a letter? And they're like, that'd be great. And he says to Valentine, he's like, do you know somebody named Antonio? Because apparently there's only one Antonio who lives in Italy at this time. But anyway, Valentine is like, yeah, I know him. He's awesome. I've known him forever and he's a fine person. And the Duke of Milan is like, doesn't he have a son? And Valentine's like, yeah, he does, and he's also awesome. And the Duke of Milan is like, but do you know him really well? And Valentine says, I knew him as myself. For from our infancy we have conversed and spent our hours together. And though myself have been an idle truant, omitting the sweet benefit of time to clothe mine age with angel-like perfection, yet hath Sir Proteus, for that's his name, made use and fair advantage of his days. His years but young, but his experience old. His head unmellowed, but his judgment ripe. And, in a word, for far behind his worth comes all the praises that I now bestow, he is complete in feature and in mind, with all good grace to grace a gentleman. So this is Valentine giving Proteus a ringing endorsement, saying yes, he's young, but he's really smart. He's studied hard. He's the best gentleman that you could ever want. And I can say that because I've known him since we were children. We grew up together, and he's a fantastic specimen of a human being. And the Duke's like, okay, great. That means we can have him here in the court, and we look forward to him showing up. And then the Duke of Milan leaves, and there's again the three of them, Sylvia, Proteus, and Thurio. Valentine. Blech. Valentine says to Sylvia, he's like, so this is the guy that I was telling you about. I'm excited for you to meet him. And Thurio says some disparaging remarks about this guy who's coming in, and some more disparaging remarks about Valentine, and Sylvia's like, enough. I've had enough of this. So Thurio leaves as Proteus is coming in, and we will hear more about that tomorrow once he's there. Because that's a good place to stop, right? Yeah. Okay, we'll stop there for today, and I'll see you tomorrow for more. Mwah.